I'm just trying to human. Hey y'all, welcome back to Falling Off Curves. I'm your host Kat, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today we're going to discuss something I think we have all had to deal with at some point or another in our lives, and that is letting go. And so, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, even like a mindset, letting go is a skill, an art form, dare I say, of sorts. And honestly, it can be a struggle. So, we're going to talk about said struggle today. So, grab a seat, grab a snack, whatever feels right, and let's jump in. Let's take a second to define. Um, what we are talking about when we say letting go, because it's not just about cutting ties or walking away or blocking. Because listen, we can have a block party, Chuck Brown style block party. We can block them on the email, we can block them in the text messages, we can we can block them on all the social media channels. It's not that. It is really about us releasing any emotional or mental hold that something has over us or that we are allowing to have over us. It's us saying, um, yeah, I'm done carrying this weight. And so it doesn't mean we're just forgetting something or pretending it didn't happen. It really means we're choosing to move forward even when it's difficult. It's also important, I think, for us to all note together that letting go doesn't look the same for everyone and it doesn't look the same for every situation. Sometimes it's one of those, quiet moments, quiet decisions in our hearts or in our minds. Other times it's an actual active change in our lives, right? Whether it's something like we're going to start going to the gym now, or we're going to let that job go that no longer aligns with us, or the relationship that needs to end, or even beliefs about ourselves that no longer serve us. We are letting that go, and that takes a lot of courage. I know oftentimes we think we've let something go, but in reality, we've just buried it. And that's not helpful because letting go and burying, or if we're using proper psychological words, and again, I am no psychologist or therapist, but I remember hearing this word once in therapy: repression. So letting go and repression, aka burying, they're totally different. Repressing or repression is quite literally, dare I say, a psychological defense mechanism we 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 use when we are consciously or unconsciously trying to avoid emotions. So it's like us seeing there's dirt and sweeping it under the proverbial rug. So we don't see it, but it's still there. And a lot of times there's so much dirt under that rug, it causes a hump and we wind up stumbling over it at some point or another. If we don't stump over it, we traipse through it, and now our shoes, socks, feet, toes are dirty, right? And so when we know we're repressing because we don't want to think about the thing, we don't want to talk about whatever the issue is, not to be confused with the very real and valid needing of time to process an issue before we discuss it, because that's really healthy. It's okay to say, "Hey, let me just take a second. Let me take a beat to process what I got going on here, process whatever has happened, and then go about working through it." That's totally healthy. What I'm talking about is we don't want to hear about it at all. We don't want to think about it at all. We don't want to talk about it at all. And if we do have to hear about it, think about it, or talk about it, we feel super triggered by all of it. And I mean everything, all of it. It can be a smell, it could be a taste, it could be a place, it could be a sound, a song that comes on the radio, the start of somebody's car, the wind blowing on your scalp or through the leaves, anything. For me, I typically experience stress responses, like my stomach will start hurting, or I'll feel like big butterflies in my stomach. Not like the happy, oh, this is good butterflies, like the oh dear God, what's happening. butterflies. Maybe we'll call them death moths. I don't know. So it's either that or my chest will get tight whenever something comes up that I um, haven't fully let go. And repression often happens because we feel like we're facing an issue or we are facing an issue that feels too overwhelming for us to process because we haven't built up or acquired healthy coping mechanisms to deal with whatever it is. Or we haven't, I won't say we don't have any coping mechanisms. We may have like stage one, stage two coping mechanisms that are that are healthy, but this issue is like a stage three or four, and we haven't developed those higher coping mechanisms to deal with it. it so repression, it doesn't resolve anything. It really just delays your healing process. So if we're comparing the two, right, repressing or burying and letting go, we'll understand, we can see that repression is when we push things out of our conscious awareness without truly dealing with any of them. It is avoidance and it is a form of resisting. While letting go, on the other hand, it's really about facing and processing whatever emotions we have so that we can ultimately release them or let them go. And it's really about us being aware and us accepting and releasing and then moving forward. Repression can also have us feeling falsely confident that we are getting over it. Right. I'm getting over it. I got over it. When really we should be working to get through it. And these things are not the same, right? This ain't that baby, right? Getting over it implies that we have, let me see, skipped the process of healing. It's like slapping a band-aid on a wound that actually needs stitches. Uh, it, when we talk about getting through it, it's about us doing the work. It is about us facing those emotions, us processing those emotions, and then allowing ourselves to heal at our own proper paces. And it's directly tied to letting go because it's in the process of work, working through the pain, working through the issue, situation, relationship, bad job, etc., mindset, that the true release will happen. But even in learning all of this, letting go really is still just hard. We can go on and on. Letting go, really, y'all, we know it's just a hard thing to do. One of the reasons I think it's so hard for us to let go is that I think we're wired to attach, right? Bonds. Psychologically speaking, I think our brains are designed to seek or find patterns, because patterns feel like stability. And we attach ourselves to things that feel stable, um, a lot of times emotionally, right? So the emotional attachment or these emotional bonds, they give us a sense of safety because they feel predictable, right? Safety and predictability go hand in hand a lot of times. Even from a young age, we do learn to form emotional bonds as a way to survive or even to thrive. Like our friend groups, our support communities, we have emotional attachments to those people, and they either are helping us to survive, we're all we got, we're working through it together, and or they're helping us to thrive. They're supporting us, saying, "Hey, girl, hey, man, hey, friend, what are we doing? Like, we can do better than this," or "Hey, let's go," and whatever the thing is that helps our gardens to grow and thrive. It's those emotional bonds, but it can be tricky because we have to understand that these very same bonds can be the things that hold us holding on to something, even when they've outlived their purpose. Because for many of us, the past does feel safer than the present or even the future. I think another reason is that our emotions, which our emotions complicate things. Y'all know this. We know this together as a family, as a community here, just in general. Whether it's in anger or anxiety or loneliness, anger, it'll keep us attached to something because we feel like letting go means the other person or the other situation wins. And I put that one first because let me tell y'all something. I ain't no sucker. I've never been a sucker. I am a winner. Right. And it used to be so bad for me that I wouldn't even do like normal things like bowling. I don't like bowling and I'm not good at bowling, even though my grandfather was a semi-professional bowler. I'm really bad at it. And so I don't tend to do it. Now, granted, I'll go out with my group of friends, like, let's go bowling. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go. I'll root y'all on. I'll be a traitor and root for the other side. Like, who needs food? Everybody good, but I won't bowl because I'm not good at it. And I don't do things I'm not good at because I like to win. The Lord's working on me, y'all. So I get it when we're talking about letting something else win, or we feel like something else or someone else is going to win. Anger. I don't think so, partner. Pick another one, right? Another thing I think comes up is anxiety, which it just like staples us in place because it makes us afraid of whatever could come next. We get paralyzed with all of the what if scenarios. What if it's a mistake if I let go? What if I regret if I let go? Anxiety feeds off of this uncertainty, and it makes the act of releasing feel so overwhelming. And then we're going to talk about the dirty L word, loneliness. And loneliness, it's such a sneaky little thing because sometimes we can get it confused with just being alone. And being alone is not bad, y'all. We should be okay with being alone with ourselves because we learn to love ourselves and like ourselves, enjoy our own company. But we'll talk about that in another podcast episode. But we oftentimes confuse being alone with being lonely. And so it makes it a little bit sneaky, tricky because loneliness convinces us to hold on to people and situations that are harm for us so that we don't feel lonely, right? All of it boils down to one thing. All of these things, it boils down to one truth. Letting go feels like stepping off a curb, right? Stepping into the unknown. And our brains do not like uncertainty because uncertainty is scary. And it's scary specifically because of the very real fear of what's next. We might know, oftentimes we know deep down that something isn't good for us anymore. But the idea of releasing it or letting go, specifically without knowing what will fill the space, is terrifying. We've all heard the devil we know. So the devil we know feels safer than the potential new devil. And I said potential new devil because it's not always a new devil. A lot of times it's not a new devil. It's what we make up in our mind, what we have forecasted as a narration of reality in our mind, and it's not true. But we understand the devil we know, that proverb or proverbial saying. It feels safer. Um, because the unknown really can feel like we're just stepping off of something, just stepping into the void, off the cliff, and we don't necessarily see any ground beneath us. The right question to ask is, what if I fall? And what if nothing catches me? That's scary in any situation. Even people who bungee jump. I know there's a video of a fella and they got him strapped to the chair, and he's all tight, secured in the chair. He's not gonna fall out the chair, but it's one of the videos. They put you in the chair, they put you all strapped in real good and tight and secure, and then they push the chair off of the platform, right? We all know he knew what was going to happen, but the reality, like the fear in his mind was, oh God, what if this thing snaps? So that's a very real fear, even when we can see what's going to happen. It's scary not knowing what will happen actually in real life. And so that fear is what has us holding on to things a lot of times way past their expiration date. Honey, that milk has expired. You've got to throw that out. And the fear of this, it's not just emotional. I think it is biological. Again, our brains are wired to perceive what's unknown as a potential threat. We are geared to survive. And so if we don't know something, our brains will say, okay, let's prepare because this could go really wrong, right? This can be a threat. And it oftentimes triggers stress responses that make us cling even tighter to the thing that we need to let go. And when our biological brain isn't, and I'm air quoting, failing us because nothing fails us, but you know what I mean, we have to deal with our psyche, specifically our ego, which frequently gets in the way, right? Got a big ego. And that's everyone. Let me be clear. Everybody has an ego. Even a toddler has an ego. So no one feel attacked by any means. We have egos. It's just a part of who we are. Um, we want to prove, and when I say we, I mean me, maybe just talking about myself here. We want to prove that we can fix something or that we're strong enough to stay and to make something work. And if we're letting go of a relationship, or needing to let go of a relationship, our ego might even have us thinking, and I'm gonna say it, y'all, that we are worth the other person changing for, right? If we just hold on one more day or a little bit longer, the other person will change for us because we're worth it. So we just gotta hold on until they change. It is no ma'am, no sir. No ma'am, no sir. I'm tough about this one because I know this is something that I um I got to work on. Relationship can be whether partner relationship, love relationship, friend relationship, colleague relationship. We want to feel like we can fix it, but we wind up figuring out that it's the tomorrow that never comes. We like to stay in control by not letting go, because if we hold on, at least we know what we're dealing with. Again, that proverbial devil that we know, which is bananas to me. It's when we let go, it feels like we're surrendering. And that's tough for all of the very real reason. The thing to me, though, is control is an illusion. We're not really in control of anything per se except ourselves. And so clinging to something just to maintain a sense of power, oftentimes it leaves us feeling powerless, right? In the end of of it all. And lastly, we're going to talk about our friend trauma because, yes, trauma adds so many other layers and complexities to this. When we've been hurt before, or experienced some pain or betrayal in the past that creates some form of trauma, little or big, letting go again feels like stepping into uncertainty. And again, uncertainty feels dangerous. We don't like things that feel dangerous, so we tend to prepare for the worst to anticipate harm, and then we hold on tighter to anything that feels secure, even when we shouldn't, because holding on can feel like a way to protect ourselves. Right? This is the defense mechanism. This is the self-preservation, and we think if I let this go, I might get hurt again. So we become hyper vigilant, and we're always looking for signs of danger, which can keep us clinging to what's familiar even when it's unhealthy. This hypervigilance for danger is also dangerous because sometimes we create things that aren't true. Again, illusions. Again, another podcast episode we'll talk about. But in this particular episode, that hypervigilance will keep us holding on to something familiar because that feels safer. It's a survival mechanism, y'all, and it keeps us stuck in survival mode. Trauma rewires our brain to prioritize safety above all else, above what is truly rational, logical, healthy safety. And so it makes letting go feel not just hard, not just difficult, but almost impossible. I think the truth is that holding on too tightly hurts more than letting go, especially when we know we should let go. I see it as like a rope in our hands. We're holding one end of the rope, and the other end of the rope is, let's just say, attached to someone, something. Let's just, for animation's sake, a boulder. And the boulder is heavier than what we can hold on to. And so that rope is sliding or slipping through our grasp, and I'm talking like one of those good tug of war ropes. If anyone has played tug of war or dealt with ropes or anything like that, you know when it starts slipping because something is too heavy and it's pulling, you get rope burn and your hands, that actually hurts really bad. And so we hurt ourselves by holding on to something that we need to let go. So we have to learn to let go. But then once we learn to let go, what happens when we finally do decide to let go? What happens, right? I have found we create space. We create space for new opportunities, for new attitudes, for new relationships, for new versions of ourselves. Think about it. How many times have you let something go and suddenly, boom, Bob's your uncle's doors are opening that you didn't even know existed before? I don't think that's a coincidence, y'all. I think that letting go is such an act of courage because it's an act of trust, specifically trusting that whatever is meant for you won't miss you. We will hold on to it because we again don't know is going to happen next or what we're going to get next. um that we miss what is ours because we won't put down what we have in our hands. I am a firm believer, I mean, just even physically, I cannot receive something if my hands are already full. We got to put it down. We got to let it go to get whatever it is that is meant for us, even if it is just peace. And when I say just peace, I don't mean it in a minimal or trivial way. Peace is so big, it is so tremendous, it is so beautiful. So I said that to say we don't want to always think that we let something go to for it to be replaced by something else very tangible. Sometimes the letting go is us acquiring peace and joy and freedom, and that's beautiful. We so we're making this space um, to add new things, and we're in this new or new now newly opened emotional and mental room, so that we can really embrace all of the life we're meant to live. And speaking of things that are meant for us, holding on to things that aren't meant for us, it is exhausting. It is so exhausting. It just drains our mental energy, our emotional energy, our social energy, even sometimes our physical energy, because it's like carrying around a backpack filled with stuff. It is just heavy, heavy stuff that we don't need anymore. So when we do let it go, we are really reclaiming all of that energy that we can now direct towards things that truly matter to us. I know we've all seen someone, whether it's a colleague, a friend, a family member, whomever it is, and you see them and you know they're dealing with something that's heavy, something that they need to let go of, or something they're trying to let go of, like they're in the process of it. And you can see it, it weighs on them. You can see it like a coat, like they wear it. And as they're walking through that process of letting go and they let it go and they're moving through that, you when you see them again, they look lighter, they look more vibrant, they look, hey, okay, you're looking like you're alive again. That's what I mean. Imagine what we could do with all the time and energy that we now have that we had spent previously holding on to something that we could have let go. It's so much. And so letting go helps us again. We reclaim our vibrance. We reclaim ourselves again. And not only that, y'all, but there's so much beauty in acceptance. Again, letting go isn't just about releasing. That's a major part of it, right? We're letting go, releasing. That's huge. Another important part is the acceptance. It's about accepting, and acceptance isn't about defeat. We didn't lose. We haven't failed. When we accept, we understand that life does move in cycles and seasons. We're accepting and understanding that we recognize that some chapters have to close. I'm sorry, all chapters have to close so that others can begin. I don't know. I love to read, y'all, and you know what? I have a story. It's not really a story. It's more of an example of um, what happens when we decide not to close a chapter before we think we can open a new one. My mom, my illustrious mother, she is infamous, especially, well, it doesn't matter whether it's a movie or a TV series, especially ones where like Netflix, they all come out, that the episodes come all out at the same time. You know, we typically will binge watch it. To me, I'm gonna go through every detail of the sitcom, every episode, because I feel like I'm gonna miss something at the end that I need to go back and remember. My mom, however, let's just say there's 10 episodes on a new show, and she'll watch like the first two episodes because she's like, I need to know who the characters are. I kind of need to know where they are in the story, like protagonist, antagonist, main character, side character, who's who. She takes those two episodes to connect all the dots, understand like the general storyline, and then she'll skip to like the second to last episode and pick it up from there. Because she's like, I already know who's who. I just want to see what happens next. And it makes me crazy. It makes me crazy because I'm like, we missed all the things in the middle. That stuff is important. Why are we starting this new episode when we haven't finished the last ones? So to me, I see it like that, right? In my brain, I'm missing. She's actually really good at that. So let me not say that that's a bad thing. In the movie media sitcom situation, she's really good about piecing it all together with the first two and then the last two episodes. So kudos to you, mama. But in my brain, I need to go through all the episodes. I need to read through the chapter and close it so that a new one can end. I mean, so that a new one can begin. That's how my brain works. And in life, it's kind of the same way. A new chapter cannot begin healthily until the old one ends. We got to wrap it up, wrap that chapter up. And so that helps us to, when we can understand that we have to, chapters have to end so that others can begin. When we understand that everything has a season and life moves in cycles, we are able to really see that change is a natural and necessary part of life. And that's liberating and it's beautiful. But let me go back to something I said earlier when I was briefly going on about acceptance. Letting go is not about quitting. Again, as I said earlier in this episode, I'm a winner, y'all. I'm a winner. And winners don't quit. And so a lot of times I have to remind my own self, you are not quitting. Like you're not being defeated. You're not failing. You're just saying this no longer aligns with who I am, who I'm becoming, who I want to become. Letting go is about progress. It is about us recognizing that holding on to what isn't serving us anymore, it is important. And it's important so that we move forward in the best ways that honor ourselves and our journeys. And what a beautiful ripple effect it creates. Again, when we release the things that weigh us down, we become freer, we become lighter, we become more open to all the possibilities around us. It really changes how we show up in all of the spaces we occupy, right? Whether it's as a parent, as a significant other, as a boss or employee, as a member of whatever associations, like whatever spaces we occupy, and I'll interchange spaces and roles in this instance, wherever we are, whatever places and spaces and roles we're occupying, when we become lighter and freer, we are showing up differently. We're showing up fuller and freer. And y'all, freedom is contagious. When I see someone who is walking in freedom and healthy, I'm like, ooh, I want to do that too. I like it. Yay, go boy, go girl, let's do it. And it encourages me. It's so inspirational. And when we're in it, when we're in our freedom and our contagious and inspirational freedom, because we are letting go or we have let go, whether we realize it or not, whether someone says it to us or not, we become inspirations to other people. Quick story. So my almost 7-year old daughter was born early. She was born at 26 weeks. And so we spent a lot of time, and it was a lot, guys. It was a lot, folks. A very interesting, but very transformative part of my life. And dare I say our lives, because my ex-husband, we were still married, of course, and so we walked through some things together that transformed us for the better. But I remember I left. Let me see. I was admitted on a Tuesday. She was born on Thursday, 2 days later, Thursday around noonish. I left, I was discharged from the hospital on that Sunday. So what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days later. But baby girl stayed in the NICU. She was in the NICU for 136 days. That was the longest 136 days of my life, y'all. But she stayed in there. And I made it a point to go and see her every single day. I think of 136 days, I may have missed three. Two times I was sick. And the other third time, I was down in Danville. Um, I was graduating with my master's degree, first master's degree. So of course I wasn't there, so I couldn't see her. But I went every day after work, every day, and on the weekends. I was there because that's my baby girl. And there was another mom in there, and we'll call her Mary. And Mary was a couple of years. She was a couple of years older than me, maybe 3 or 4 years older than me at the time. I was 28. I was 28. However many, almost 7 years ago it was, but 28. And I was broken, y'all. I felt so broken in that time period. God really did some transformative work in my life at that time. But I felt broken. But I knew I'm gonna see my girl every day. That's my girl. And she was a tiny little thing. She was a pound. She was born at a pound 2 ounces. She got down at one point to like 8 ounces. It was wild, y'all, but we'll talk about that maybe another time. But I would go in every day, go into the NICU. The nurses were beautiful. They were great people. Um, and over time, you begin to know the other parents whose babies are in the NICUs too, because you all see each other frequently. And so I remember the door. Baby girl for me was you gotta go through the door and you kind of walk to the other side of the room, like literally the only other side. But right at the door, when you came in to the right, there was another mom, Mary, and her baby. And she at some point her baby got moved next to my baby, and so naturally we would talk and we became friends. And she told me one day, she said, I and I'm going to paraphrase because it feels like forever ago when we had this conversation. And she told me essentially that she would see me come in every day and she said, "You looked so strong and put together and just like you could do anything." I was so inspired by it. Like it was so inspirational to see you doing this thing that we're all doing and having so much resilience and strength, and you always just look together. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what in the world? And I told her, I said, "Mary, you have no," first of all, that I remember like tearing up because I was not quite finished being, I was not out of the breaking. Baby girl was still in the NICU. And so I was still dealing with some of the brokenness. And I teared up because I said, "You have no idea. Like I feel broken right now." And so for you to say that to me it's something. It's something because it's something. I don't feel that way at all. I don't feel strong. I don't feel resilient. I don't feel like I have it all together. I feel like I'm failing and I'm falling apart. But you see something different that is inspiring to you. And it blessed me so deeply, you guys. Um, but I said all that to say I was in the process of processing all of the things that was happening, all of the emotions of having to let go of me telling myself, "You had one job, girl. You had one job, and it was just to carry a baby healthily. Just to keep that baby safe and healthy for 9 months, just to get to full term, right? And you couldn't even do that. You failed. We fail. And so again, we talk about letting go of mindsets. When we're letting go of words that we say to ourselves that are unkind. I'm in that. I'm in that process of dealing with it. And Lord's helping me. I am in it though. And so I guess as I was moving through it and casting down those vain imaginations, I was becoming freer, whether I knew it or not. And someone else saw it and it was inspiring to them. And I think that's beautiful. So when we're talking about this ripple effect of letting go and us becoming freer and lighter, it shows, even when we don't think it shows. And so um, there's so much honesty too that's a part of letting go. Uh, it's such a powerful thing, releasing and letting go, because it does require us to be transparent. Remember, we're not saying the word vulnerable because ill, yuck, boo, hiss, but transparent and honest with ourselves and sometimes with other people, because it means we have to admit what we feel, why we feel it, how long we've been feeling it, what we need, which is, ooh, we're definitely going to talk about having to voice up about or voice out about what we need because Jesus, let me tell y'all something. So what we need and what we are ready to release. And while transparency or emotional openness, like Mr. Wilson said, it is very scary. It can feel very scary. That's where true connection and true healing happened. Um, Remember, transparency and emotional openness doesn't mean we're exposing ourselves recklessly. We're not out here just spilling our guts to everybody everywhere. We're not being reckless about this. It's about us being brave enough to say, this is my truth. This is the truth that I'm in, and I'm ready to move forward with that truth. And once we're ready to move forward and let go, the first thing that we'll typically do, y'all, is again acknowledge something. Whatever it is, we are acknowledging that whatever the thing is we need to let go, it isn't good for us anymore. Let me just quickly say this should not be confused with emotional manipulation or lack of accountability. You, my friend, cannot be the problem talking about, well, it's not for me anymore. I'm going to let it go. No, 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 fam. You're not the releaser. You're the releasee. You're the thing that people are letting go. Like, what do they say? Am I the drama? I'm the drama. Am I the villain? I'm the villain. Yes, you are the villain. So, not to be confused with being emotionally manipulative or unaccountable. It's about acknowledging what you really need as a person who needs it. And acknowledgement, it does help us to see really when something just isn't serving us anymore. It's not healthy for us anymore. And it might sound simple, but it's not easy because, again, it takes a lot of honesty to admit when a thing, a habit, a job, a relationship has run its course, when it's met its expiration date. Because then we have to name it. We have to name what's holding us back. We have to name what we're holding on to, and we have to face it head on. And that does not feel great because a lot of times that means shining some light into some corners of our lives that are messy, or overgrown, or neglected because we've avoided them. And it makes us more aware than ever. And going back to that, am I the problem? I'm the problem. Awareness is a big part of the foundation of letting go. One big part of acknowledgement is acknowledging that letting go often comes with grief. Grief of what's gone, grief of what we've lost, grief of what we think we've lost, grief of what could have been or should have been, which is I'm raising my hand right now. The could have been, should have been, would have been. Ooh, God help me, right? That's that. Ooh, yeah. The tomorrow that never came. You're right. So even when we know it's the right thing to do, there is a normal sadness that's going to come in releasing what we once held dear, what we once cared for, what we once cared about. But not only is it okay to grieve those things, it's necessary to grieve those things because grief is it's a natural and necessary part of the process of letting go. I will say, um, one thing about grieving, and it's not to always be a beacon of optimism, but really, grieving isn't just about mourning what we've lost. It's about honoring the role that whatever it is played in our lives, even if it was painful. It's all there's always a lesson. There's always something we can be taught. I saw a quote that said I thought it was super profound first and foremost, and I'm gonna quote it now. I'll say I don't know where it originally came from, but so don't harm me, folks. If you all know where it originated from, feel free to drop it in the comments. But the quote is pain, and I quote, pain is a great teacher because it helps you realize two things, what's worth suffering for and what you never want to experience again. Y'all, that's the truth. When it comes to letting go, pain is almost guaranteed. It's uncomfortable, it burns, it stings, it feels like we are losing a part of ourselves. It requires us to grieve. We, and grief is painful, because it's tied to us grieving whatever it was that mattered to us, right? When we let go, again, of a job, a dream, a relationship, or even an old version of ourselves, we're not just losing what wasn't serving us, we're losing the expectation, the hope, and sometimes even the identity we attached it to. And that's why it hurts. But if we let it, pain can be directional. It can be directional because it can show us what we value, what we fear, and where we need to grow. It could be like a compass pointing us toward what truly matters, because it's not just about suffering, y'all. It's none of this is just about suffering. It's about learning, and we don't like pain, so we try to avoid it. But the kicker is that avoiding pain doesn't make it go away. It just delays the process, and it delays the lesson. Some of us hold on to things because we're afraid of the pain that comes with letting go, but y'all, holding on hurts too. And again, pain is going to show up either way, but we can't heal from something we refuse to admit hurts us, or causes us pain. And so when we admit it, we face it, we allow ourselves to grieve, which creates opportunity for us to heal. And we start to see what's really worth fighting for and what's worth releasing. This quote also reminds me that, if we let it, pain can give us clarity, specifically because it reveals what we need to leave behind in order to move forward. And y'all, it hurts. It hurts so bad at first, and maybe even at second and third. It feels, if I can only talk about my own experience, then it feels like you're breaking apart. But what's actually happening, I've learned or think to be true, what's actually happening is space is being made. It's like we're clearing out a garden full of weeds so that we can plant new things and new growth can happen. Not only I actually like to be in my yard, y'all. I like gardening. Um, Not yet produce to eat, but I like landscape and shrubbery and flowers and whatnot. And pulling weeds is can be backbreaking work. Like you're literally down there and with the gloves on, with your knee pads in the dirt or on the sidewalk or pathway, and you're pulling weeds. You're finding all the roots where the weeds go, because not enough to pull a little bit of it. You got to like follow the path of the weeds and try to get it all out from the roots of the roots. And so it's a lot of work. A lot of times you're doing this when it's warm, it's hot outside, and it's just so much, and it's a lot of work. And then once you finish doing that, planting isn't easy either. You're digging a hole, and don't even mention if you don't have like soft soil. If you got like we got clay out here where I am, and so it got to break through the soil and get down the appropriate amount of inches to put the seed or to plant in. And before you do that, you got to put like good soil down. Like it's a whole process, but it is work. And a lot of times it's backbreaking work. But this is the process. That's the process when we're clearing out the weeds and we're letting things go so that we make space for new growth to happen. Like I said, is it work? Absolutely. Is it uncomfortable? Incredibly so, but it's necessary. So while we're in the thick of letting it go or letting things go, and it feels like our heart is breaking, or we feel crushed, we feel broken, um, we got to remember that pain, again, isn't there to punish us. It's not about suffering only. Again, it's a part of learning. And so we have to choose to not let it paralyze us, not let it make us freeze. Instead, we have to actively, intentionally, progressively choose to see where we're holding on too tightly and where we need to release. And the pain, if we do the work, it is temporary. I promise you. I'll tell my friends all the time, like, well, it hurts. Here's the thing, pain is going to exist either way. For me, I'd rather the pain exist while I'm doing the work because I know the pain will end versus just being in pain because I don't want to do the work. So, pain, if we do the work, it is temporary, and grieving is a part of doing that work. So, we have to allow ourselves to feel the pain, like sit with it, feel the feels, feel the grief, and then process it. We can't just sit and feel the pain and feel the grief and do nothing. Like, let's process it. And once we're done processing it, and sometimes even in the middle of processing it, one many things come out of that. One of the beautiful things that happens in all of this is um, the creation of boundaries. And this is important because boundaries are key when it comes to letting go, especially with people. Again, it's not just about cutting people off harshly. It's really about us creating the distance needed to protect our peace and move forward. Let's also remember that boundaries aren't walls. They're not walls. They are gates that help us decide what and who we allow into our spaces. They give us the freedom to prioritize our own needs without feeling guilty. And also let me say this, y'all, boundaries aren't just for other people. They're for us too. And sometimes the hardest boundary for us to set is the one that says, I won't allow myself to keep repeating this, to keep revisiting this. That's the boundary. All right, so y'all know I'm always sprinkling a little Jesus. It's my man 50 grand. For me, again, my faith, my walk with him plays a huge role in letting it all go. I remind myself constantly when I'm in it or having to do it or having to face it, confront it, acknowledge it, be aware of it, go through the process, right? Be in the process, the grief, the pain, all of that stuff. I remind myself that God does have plans to prosper me. There's no plan to harm me. No plans exist from him that harm me. And that truth gives me the courage to release whatever I'm clinging to because I trust that his plans are better than mine, even when I don't or can't see the whole picture. Shoot, look, y'all, Sometimes I can't see anything at all. Forget even being able to see the whole picture. Sometimes I see nothing at all. And sometimes I don't even understand anything. But what I do understand is that I trust him more than I trust my own understanding or lack thereof. And so I remind myself that it's not about giving up. Remember, because y'all, I'm a winner. Okay. Okay. It's about giving it to him. And so I'm like, Lord, I trust you to catch this because I can't carry it anymore. And honestly, if I'm being for real, if I'm keeping it a stack, sometimes that conversation is, Lord, I don't want to let this go. Please help me let this go. I need help letting this go. We have those very real conversations, right? And when I do that, I find that I am given peace that surpasses anything that I could ever understand, anything I can even imagine, even in the process that's painful. So again, if we're being real, letting go doesn't feel good right away. Maybe even some time away, right? Sometimes it feels again like our heart is breaking, like a piece of us is being ripped away. That is okay. It's okay. Growth is rarely comfortable and healing takes time. It is not linear either. Healing is not linear. It takes time and it's a process. The pain of letting go often comes with it comes from, excuse me, a deep emotional bond that we form with the thing or the person or the situation, or even a faulty thinking or mindset or framework in our minds that we have to release. So it's not just what we think we're losing, it's what it represented to us. Again, whether it was a dream or a sense of security or false sense of security or predictability or safety or even a piece of our own identity. And sometimes we hold on because we've tied our identity to what we're clinging to. So letting go feels like we're losing a piece of ourselves. But we know and we remember, we have to remind ourselves sometimes that our worth is not tied to that job that we have to let go, to the relationship that we have to let go, to the mindset we have to let go. Again, even the versions of ourselves that we used to be. Because sometimes when we talk about survivor's guilt, I want to say this. Sometimes we feel survivor's guilt against ourselves. We feel guilty because we're becoming something different from what we used to know. What we used to know of ourselves, who we used to be. Forget anybody else because it's a whole different subject. Sometimes our greatest battle is with ourselves. At least I know for me. It's a battle with myself. And so letting go is about stepping into who we are becoming rather than staying stuck in who we were or even are at the second at that moment. It's really about growing and it's about evolving. And a lot of times it's about redefining ourselves on the terms by which we value our moral compasses, whatever they may be. Other times we might also deal with regret and self-doubt. I know I have wondered at some point, did I make the right choice? What happened if I let it go too soon, right? Still thinking about the tomorrow that may come, but we know tomorrow doesn't exist. We are in today and we say tomorrow we're going to do something, then tomorrow comes and it's today. So tomorrow does never exist. It doesn't exist, right? But this is normal. Regret, um, I believe, and this is not always true. I'm making a sweeping generalization. This is not always true. But in the context of this, when we do know we are letting go of something that has ran its course, when we feel that regret, it's often a sign that we are still processing the emotional impact of our decision. And instead of spiraling into those feelings of regret, we remind ourselves of the reasons we let go in the first place. I know for me, sometimes it means I got to write down those reasons so that I can go back and revisit them whenever doubt tries to creep in. And it does happen. Doubt will always try to creep in. It will always try to make you question your decision, doubt your decision, say, oh gosh, regret your decision. Go back and I'm not trying to tell y'all what to do clearly, but I like to write them down so that I can revisit them. That reminds me because revisionist history is dangerous. We will romanticize something that we should not be romanticizing it. We will take the very few good things and let them outweigh the very big negative things. And that's important to know. We gotta be careful about doing that. Again, I'm saying it because I gotta be careful of doing it myself. And so when we write those things down or do something so that we can revisit them to help deal with the doubting the creeping doubt, excuse me, that will come in sometimes. We're just remembering that we're just remembering that letting go is a decision we made for ourselves, for our growth, and it's okay for it to take some time for our heart to catch up with our heads. I know in previous episodes, we talked about the ability for two things to exist at the same time. And here it is again. Joy and pain can coexist. We can mourn for the end of something while also celebrating the possibility of what lies ahead. Again, back to garden, thinking about pruning a tree. I've never pruned a tree. I've pruned bushes, but we've seen prune trees, and it looks like someone has hacked off their branches. Even a professional is like someone damaged that tree, right? We're often having to cut away at dead or overgrown bushes so that we make room for new growth. Pruning is hard work. Being pruned is burning work. It burns and it doesn't look pretty at first, but eventually the tree flourishes. We flourish. Letting go works in the same way. The pain is temporary, but the growth is what we want, and the growth is long lasting. Over time, we will start to notice the rewards of letting go. And when I say over time, time can be short term, midterm, long term. Maybe it's that we feel freer, we feel lighter, we feel more open to new opportunities. Maybe we're discovering strengths we didn't know we had at all, or we're rediscovering passions or hobbies that we had forgotten about some time ago. When we let go, we create room for unexpected blessings. So we have to really trust the process, even when the process is hard. Again, the discomfort is temporary. Um, but the freedom that we gain is really worth it all. W- Y'all, we can't commit to the future if we stay attached to the past. We have to let the past go so that we can really be present and we can really commit with intention to the beautiful future that lies ahead of us. That is so important. So as we wrap up, I will tell y'all, I'll be honest, I'm in my own process right now of letting go. Specifically letting go of the what could have been, what should have been. And y'all, this is a tough one for me. I'll keep it a stack. It was a tough one. Sometimes again, we talked about that doubting creeping in, that doubt creeping in, the creeping doubt, as we'll call it, the creeping doubt. Um, but I'm at the end of this letting go process, even though it's been a tough run. I'm right there at the end of it, so I'm okay, and I'm okay because I have learned before in previous times where I've had to let things go, and I'm relearning that the breaking is making way for the breakthrough, and so I'm okay with that. I say this to say, y'all, that the things that we talk about that come up in topic in this podcast and these episodes, I am either going through them or have been through them. And maybe we'll go through them at some other point in my life at a different level. Um, Having been through them sometimes more oftentimes than I care to admit. So I'm always talking from a real experience and real transparency about what I'm learning or have learned or am continuing to learn. And really honestly, y'all, I'm really just trying to be human, and it's tough sometimes, but I'm thrilled to have y'all along this journey with me. Um, there will be more stories, of course, as I have the privilege of having guests talk about these topics with me and hear their journeys, them sharing their journeys of their becoming or their human experience about whatever very human topic happens to come up in that time. So there'll be so much more, so many more stories, so many other people that are relatable that we may be able to see ourselves in. So, anyway, if this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, or even like leave a message letting me know what topics y'all would like to hear us talk about, right? What's interesting to you. And if I have not been through it, I will never force it. I know so many people who have beautiful, interesting lives, beautiful, interesting journeys. Reach out to them and say, hey, let's talk. Let's hear about your journey so we can really get into some real experience and some real transparency with people who've been through it or even are going through it. So talk to me. I always love to hear you all's comments and feedback. And of course, I ask share it with someone you may think who's ready to make space for what truly serves them, right? Let go of things so that they can have what is meant for them. And I'll say y'all sharing, y'all support really helps this podcast reach more people, more of our human community who are navigating their own very real human experiences and their own journey of becoming. So, thank y'all for sharing and supporting. Next week, we're going to dive into a topic that I like all these topics, but I like this one too. And we're going to talk about how we need to stop entertaining ourselves. We're going to talk about how we need to get over ourselves and learn how to stop distracting ourselves with the wrong things so that we can focus on what really matters, whatever those wrong things are. We're going to talk about how we need to let them things go and stop entertaining ourselves in our own minds. So come on back and check it out, y'all. As always, thank y'all so very much for listening. Here's to understanding and loving ourselves enough to let go of all the things that have reached their expiration date. Until next time, friends, stay curious, stay kind, and stay true to your journey. Talk soon. I'm just trying to.